everybody. Welcome again. It's a pleasure for me to be the moderator of this panel that is actually going to be focusing on how we can catalyze Nigeria post-COVID recovery with impact capital. I just was reflecting this morning how when we were trying to set up the COVID-19 Impact Consortium with the IIF for Foundation and the APA, how in the beginning when we were making the introduction on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, in the beginning when we prepared the draft concept note, we were about 300,000 people that have died because of COVID-19. This was back in April 2020. And every week that the launch of the consortium was being delayed, we had to amend the number of people that were affected and the number of people that died because of the pandemic. Just last week, we reached over 5 million people dead in the whole planet of COVID-19, and it is clear that it has been the most consequential crisis at all levels. The COVID-19 pandemic is not only the impact on the health, but also the impact that it has had on all the people's activities, economics, and many other aspects. So now that we are in this situation, luckily we have some vaccinations that are being made available. So I also want to take this opportunity to encourage everybody that has a vaccine to get it, because definitely we are lucky to have this vaccine, and the earlier everybody gets vaccinated, the earlier we will all come out of this nightmare. And I know there is a lot of fake news about vaccination. I am vaccinated and I'm still alive, and I have 2 legs and 2 arms. I haven't become an octopus yet, so I believe it is safe. So I think it needs a concerted effort from everybody to come out of this pandemic, and the vaccinations are there to help. But apart from the vaccinations, there is a lot of catalytic funds that need to be mobilized from the private and the public sector to try to improve all the things that the pandemic has destroyed. So today we are going to be looking in this panel into everything that the pandemic has caused and how we can actually identify the different stakeholders that can help us out of this crisis. What is the role for each of these stakeholders? What can we do to attract catalytic capital, to attract even more private investors to get us out of this? And again, we are also going to try to see into the policy aspects that will definitely help us mainstream all the impact investment that Nigeria needs, not only to come out from the COVID-19, but also come out of the climate change crisis, the SDGs, and all the economic and development necessities that Nigeria has. So I would like to introduce my colleague panelists today. So I'm just going to give 2 minutes for everybody to introduce themselves and the organization, and for them to tell us what role they play in this impact investor ecosystem. So I will want to start with Mrs. Habila Ali. Good morning and welcome
Good
again.
morning. Thank you, Anna. I am the founder of Sosei Renewable Energies Company, a company based in Kaduna. We deploy renewable energy solutions to people, especially in the rural communities. I have been in the impact sector for all of the business life. When we started, one of the ways that we deployed our solutions was working with women as the sellers of the solution. We started with giving them products for about 20,000. They sold and made a profit of 20% profit, and we renewed the loan every month for as long as they were with us. We've grown in our impact footsteps by also now deploying solar drying hubs across communities in northern Nigeria, where especially we have perishable items, and this was actually a project that we started post-COVID, so I'm very happy to be here to be able to share about that. We also are one of the companies that have been lucky to be on the Solar Power Nigeria platform, like the president stated. We do solutions in the output-based fund area, where for every solution that we sell to people in communities, we get some 20 to 30% subsidy. And yeah, we've been deploying solar home systems, mini-grids, and productive use technologies for over 10 years now. Great to be here.
Thank you, Habiba, and a very warm welcome to you again. We can now allow our colleague Chichi Aniagulu Okoye to introduce herself. Good afternoon, and congratulations again on your recent appointment.
Thank you. Thank you. Is this on? Okay, I think it is. Thank you so much, Anna, and good morning, everyone. I'm the Regional Director for the Ford Foundation West Africa, and Ford is a philanthropic organization, and our mission is to reduce poverty, especially the drivers of inequality, and to help people to realize their full potential. We're one of the founding members of the IIF, and this is because at the Ford Foundation we recognize that economic empowerment is important when you are trying to ensure that people meet their full potential. And there's a lot of reluctance, I guess, in trying to fund socially impactful initiatives because they're not always as profitable, people don't understand it, there's a lot more work to be done in it. And so as an organization that is interested in reducing inequality, we recognize that by supporting impact investment around the world, we're able to catalyze change a lot faster and are also in a position, to make the social justice work that we support more sustainable, because it's difficult for people who are not able to meet their financial needs to talk about justice and to talk about empowerment, social empowerment, if they don't have economic empowerment. So the Ford Foundation has put in $1 billion into the social bond, created a social bond that we'll be using for impact investments around the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chichi. I definitely confirm the commitment and motivation of the Ford Foundation to set up all this impact investment ecosystem in Nigeria. They've been one of the leading forces behind everything that is happening up to date, and we believe that we will still have a very strong partner in the Ford Foundation. Thank you, Chichi. So we now move on to Emeka Ofor, the Acting Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, that also has a key role on attracting investment into Nigeria, and especially impact investment. Good morning, Emeka.
Good morning. My name is Emeka Ofor. I work with Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. Our mandate is basically to encourage, to promote, and to coordinate investments in Nigeria. Those investments also include impact investing. In fact, NIPC has been working with the IIF on the National Advisory Board on Impact Investing in the last 2 years as part of the role and the work we do. We are in the policy group as well as the demand for working capital group. The work we do in Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission is fourfold. We look at projecting a positive image for Nigeria, especially its investment opportunities and prospects, so that investors will feel good about Nigeria, whether they are foreign investors or local investors, so that by feeling good about Nigeria, despite the challenges, they will be able to invest in Nigeria and contribute to Nigeria's economic and development growth. The second thing we do is to promote the investment opportunities. As I sit here, one of the jobs I have to do is to tell you about the opportunities in Nigeria, whether it be on the general level or the impact investment space. The next thing we do, and we do that by providing information, by attending seminars and events and business investment forum, as well as by supporting you in whatever way for you to be able to see the investment opportunities. Recently, we launched a book of states that tries to elevate the investment opportunities in each of the 36 states of Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory. The next thing we also do is to facilitate investments by handholding investors, prospective, local, and foreign investors to go through or walk through the process of investing in Nigeria, arranging meetings with them to meet relevant government agencies and seeking to support them in getting licenses and approvals. The last thing we do is policy advocacy. We are the friends of investors inside government. So when we attend events like this, we harvest the information and feedback and send it back to the government to be able to work with them and improve the business environment. So that's the work we do in NIPC. Thank you.
Thank you, Emeka. And it is really pleasant to see the commitment of the Nigerian government to attract impact investment into Nigeria, not only with the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, but also with the Ministry of Finance, Budget and Planning, the Office of the Vice President, and many other public stakeholders. And last but not least, I would like to introduce Tojin Sani, the founder and CEO of Emerging Africa Group, that is connecting with us online. Good morning, Tojin.
So, I hope everyone...
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you very much for your conduct of the panel, and I thank the IIF for the opportunity. I used to run an investment bank that was listed on the Nigeria Stock Exchange, and after over 20 years in investment banking, I had a desire to achieve greater impact by not just raising funding for multinationals and the big corporates that typical investment banks work with, but to look for ways in which we can achieve greater impact. So Emerging Africa Group was formed 3.5 years ago with the intention of deploying financing and related solutions, capital solutions, to achieve development objectives. And we have over the years evolved from traditional investment banking solutions to less traditional solutions, just with the intention of achieving greater impact. We set out originally to raise $1 billion for African communities and companies over a 5-year period. 3.5 years into that, we have raised funding for building roads, for example, in north-central Nigeria. We have to reach, for which we raised over 25 billion naira. We have since then also supported one of the leading power generation companies to also raise a green bond and also to raise funding for a hybrid solution working with the Bank of Industry. Now we realized that to achieve impact, we needed to begin to do things a little differently. And so we found ourselves setting up an SME desk to support SMEs with funding. And then we realized that we needed to go even lower than the SME levels. And so we have recently acquired 2 microfinance banks, one in the north and the second one in the south of Nigeria. And we have also deployed equity into a fintech solution, whilst we have also raised debt for 4 other ICT companies, 3 of whom are in fintech. So what we have found is that the more we go on the impact journey, the deeper we have to penetrate. So we also discovered that capacity gaps was a big problem for a lot of the companies that we were working with. So it's not enough to raise capital, but we also have to make sure that there's capacity to manage that capital. And so we got into capacity building and set up Emerging Africa Capacity Building. That is now we're mentoring and training and coaching entrepreneurs and business leaders. And finally, in recent times, we have also launched mutual funds that are deploying capital into companies that have prevalence of women in the board and management, and also have recently entered an MOU with a leading African gender sponsoring entity, so that we can then have a gender fund. So it's been interesting going along this impact journey, and we just find that we keep going deeper and deeper. We have moved and evolved from an initial traditional investment banking outfit now into a financial solutions provider, just going wherever we think we can make the most impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Tojin, and thank you all the panelists for you being here today and your interest to share your experiences. So, my name is Anna, as I've already been introduced, and I'm here representing GIZ NICOP, that is clearly seeing impact investment as one of the big opportunities for Nigeria to unlock all the financing and investment needs for all the different value chains that we are representing. And I think in this panel we really have a good representation on the different working groups that are represented in the National Advisory Board, with the supply side, with Tojin, with Habiba in the demand side, with Chichi, Emeka and myself in the intermediary side, just to try to facilitate all these impact investments. So I think we're going to have very interesting discussions today. I would like to start by finding what impact investment means for all of us in our different organizations, because this is what has brought us together today, the discussion of impact investment and how to make sure it is mainstream in Nigeria. So I would like to understand from your organizations, what is the perspective you have on impact investment? What are the opportunities you see on impact investment? And how are you defining the measurement and the tracking tools to actually measure the outcomes that come from this impact investment? So maybe we can start with you, Habiba. What is impact investment for your organization?
For our organization, impact investing, impact for us is from both sides, both from the investment side and the being invested in. And like I said earlier, my business I've been in impact for all of the 10 years that the business has been in existence, because it's always been for us doing good for doing business for the good of society. And when we started and we started working with women in northern Nigeria, the idea behind it for us was to find economic empowerment, economic improvement for the women, so that they could actually, what our thought was in the beginning was, how do we make them strong enough so that they can actually touch on the lives of their children and encourage them to be better than simple bandits and, insurgents. They couldn't be swayed. And one of the things that I know that motherhood delivers is it ensures that you're able to tell your child what you want. I have stories of people who would not touch a gun because their mother has sworn for them never to touch a gun, something like that. So I felt that at the beginning, if we were able to empower the women, coming from a family where you had mates, other women in the house with your husband, then you really needed to have your own kind of money so that you could define the kind of school your child went to, the kind of life that they would actually get in the long run. So for me, the motherhood needed to be strengthened, and that's why when we started our business, we looked at how we could make that happen, and we thought we could work with women to be the on-sellers of the products. And then it's metamorphosed from just being on-sellers of the products and making a commission, but also being owners of businesses that are powered by renewable energies. And so if you look at the whole trajectory of the thing the work that we do, we actually try to make business and do business that is good for the women in the rural communities, especially, as 70% of the work that we do is in rural Nigeria. Looking at the value of energy to every aspect of life. Energy, I always say, is at the nexus of all 17 UN SDG goals. None of them can stand on its own without energy being some sort of catalyzer of it. And for us, in Nigeria, we also do know how Nigerian energy situation is. I mean, like they always say, it's a paradox that Nigeria is oil rich, energy poor. And so for us at that time, when we started our work, it was how do we deploy the right kind of energy to people and ensure that it changed their lives. And so impact for us meant reduced deforestation, reduced climate effects. And so we deployed a solution at that time in improved cook stoves, over 60,000 units for a UNFCCC project, where we are an implementing partner to our coordinating managing entity, a company based out of the US called Sequest Capital. On that project, we sold the carbon credits to Swedish Energy Agency, and we deployed, like I said, over 60,000 solutions. So you can see from the demand side, we're able to find what the need is, and from the investing side, we met the right kind of partners who also thought about how do we use energy to improve upon lives and not just give energy for us to have light. And if you look at the kind of situation that we are in Nigeria, energy, deploying energy solutions is already impact in and of itself. And so that's how it impacts on my business as well.
Okay. Thank you, Habiba, for these insights. Tojin, you've already mentioned some of the interesting aspects that impact investment has for you. Maybe you can expand a little bit on the metrics. How are you measuring the outcomes and the impacts that your investments are achieving in Nigeria?
Sure, that's what the part I missed. For every improved cook stove we deployed at that time, each one saved 2.9 tons of CO2 per annum. And so that was one measurement that we must have, even to submit it to the UNFCCC then. So we had tests that we did every year because there was a yearly verification. It was a 5-year project at that time because the CDM, Clean Development Mechanism project, was still rife and the credits were good because at that time when we started, carbon credits were €9 to the ton of CO2 saved. And that was what we sold it for SEA. And so it was really interesting that we had to prove that each of the stoves saved that amount of CO2 every year for the 5 years that we ran that project on. And then another thing that we also did measure was the number of women who were working with us as female champions. And then another thing that we also measured, which we have on our website, was if each stove saved this amount of wood, what does that translate to in number of trees saved per annum? We all know from the FAO reports that Nigeria loses about 402,000 hectares of woodland every year to deforestation. So that was very important. That was a very important matrix for us to measure. And then we came back to the dollar, the amount of money saved per family, from using probably the improved cook stove, the solar lantern, which was then replacing the kerosene lanterns for us, the candles and all of that. So if you were changing from a kerosene lantern to a solar lantern, how much were you saving? And we were seeing results as much as $16 per month. So those are the kind of metrics that we were actually watching over then.
Okay, thank you, Habiba. So now to Tojin, when you are analyzing your impact investment opportunities, how do you define these impact metrics and how do you make sure that not only they are measurable, but it's cost effective to measure them and they also can provide additional insights to improve the overall performance of your investments? Because there is nothing like a manual on different impact metrics. How do you do this in a practical way with investments that you consider in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Anna. So let me start by saying that our approach is very simple. So the first and very important metrics that we set was the volume of funding that we were deploying, and that we were deploying to sectors that we consider to be critical to the meeting of social needs. So for us, impact investing is all about meeting social needs. And so what we look for is what are the sectors that have the greatest capacity to effect change in our level of development. And we recognize, for example, that access to markets is critical. A lot of our communities are still dependent on agribusiness, and the agricultural value chain captures the height of wealth creation. Even now, in terms of growth of our GDP, the agribusiness sector is still attributed or accountable for a chunk of that. And so that's how, for example, we decided to go into roads in north central Nigeria. Now, we then decided also that access to power is also of critical importance. And as I believe Habiba had already mentioned it, power is really at the heart of everything that makes our economies grow and drive our economy. So again, we wanted to be sure that we were a part of the solution to power needs, but very importantly in a sustainable way. And that's how we partnered with our power generation company for whom we have been sourcing funding. Then we looked at the ICT technology sector, especially fintech, and we recognized that because they were deploying retail solutions, as opposed to business-to-business, our traditional business-to-business models in investment banking, we needed to be working with entities that were deploying solutions that have direct impact on individuals. And that's how we got into providing support and even investing directly in, by way of equity in our most recent fintech acquisition, that is Fondor, which provides end-to-end personal finance services to individuals. We also took account of the fact that SMEs and MSMEs account for more than 60% of jobs in our economy. And job creation is very important to us. So the number of SMEs that we can support and MSMEs that we can support, and of course the jobs that those SMEs and MSMEs create becomes critical to us, a critical metrics of impact that we are tracking. And that's why we went into the acquisition of the 2 microfinance banks, because that is very, very easy to track. And if I step back and I use the example of Emerging Africa as a startup, so when we started 3.5 years ago, we had 2 staff. Today, we have 60 staff. By the end of this month, we will have 65 staff. Each of these staff, on the average, have an average of about 4 families. And so we know already that just by setting up the Emerging Africa group, we have been able to essentially support 240 people. Now, when we now think about the contractors and we think about the providers, the service providers that are working with us, or with our balance sheet of over 30 billion that we have created in the last 2.5 years, and also the entities that we have funded. Those are the ways in which we measure. And let me be frank with you, we're very pragmatic in what we do. We're in business to make profit. So again, the profitability of what we have invested in becomes something that we're also tracking, even as we track the impact as well. Because when we run a profitable business, we are also creating wealth for Nigeria. So over this period, we have also noticed steady growth in profitability, not just of our businesses, but very importantly of the businesses that we have funded and we have supported. And we see businesses moving from loss-making positions to healthy profit positions. So I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mika.
The last thing I will say is also that we are also tracking, we're very interested in financial literacy and financial inclusion metrics, which access to finance is at the heart of everything we do. And so working with the financial literacy community in the capital market, we're also able to track how our activities are impacting financial inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Tojin, for sharing with us these samples, for successfully measuring these impact key performance indicators that can provide additional ideas for any of the impact investors that can be in this room. Now moving on, one important aspect is how can we mobilize these catalytic funds that are going to attract additional investment from private capital. So Emeka, what is the Nigerian Investment Promotion Council doing in this regard to attract not only this catalytic investment that is really going to mobilize impact to different sectors, but what are you doing as well to facilitate this task for the private investors?
Okay, thank you. I would like to start by saying that the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission is a public good organization. So whatever, or let me rephrase, most of the things we do in NIPC will have to be in the realm of public good. And that is why most of the time we don't charge for anything we do for the services we render. But in NIPC, we see Nigeria as an ideal place for impact investing. When you look at the population of over 200 million, you look at the level of economic development, you look at the social and economic challenges that we face in the country, then you look at the market, you will begin to understand that we have a lot of work to do. And one way we can do it is to encourage and promote investments that will help to create growth and economic development, reduction of poverty, creating wealth, creating job opportunities, and so on. So in looking at the type of investments that we attract, we have what we call the RIPS philosophy. The RIPS philosophy for us looks at responsible, that's for the R, inclusive for the I, balanced for the B, and then sustainable for the S. So we call it our RIPS philosophy. And we try to incorporate that philosophy in some of the international investment promotion and protection agreements that we sign, even as the secretariat for that committee in Nigeria. We try to push that investments that will come into Nigeria, the type of investments we promote, are such that will align with the RIPS philosophy. They have to be responsible, they have to be inclusive, they have to be balanced, and they have to be sustainable. One of the things we also try to do is to ensure that we promote and disseminate information that will help us attract such investments so that they can have the catalytic pull or push that we are looking for. If you look at the ERGP and then the sustainability plan, you will see that some of them are also focused on trying to get a form of transformation in the economy. For us in NIPC also, we grant pioneer status incentives, which is approved by the federal government and administered by the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. The idea behind that is to grant tax holiday to companies that are listed or are engaged in activities that are listed in the as pioneer status activities. These are activities that the government consider to be somehow catalytic to Nigeria's economic development. In NIPC, we have put in place a requirement that those that will benefit from the pioneer status incentive, that will enjoy the 3 to 5 year tax holiday, will have to show us a social impact plan that they will implement during the period of the pioneer status, and also have to show us their means of measuring the plans during the pioneer period. Some of them could look at the jobs created. Some of them will be the quantum of investment into the sector. Some of them could be capacity building that they're initiating to ensure that the impact is felt on a sustainable level. And then another thing we also do in NIPC is to profile emerging investment opportunities, impact investors that are relevant to Nigeria's economic development. What we do is, if we identify an organization as being such that will help us jumpstart or improve the social impact, we profile them and use them as sort of a template for others to copy and learn. So for us, the impact is important, the social impact is important. For traditional investors also, the financial impact or return on investment is also important. As they make more money, we expect that they will also invest them to create social impact. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emeka. As I said in the beginning, it's really reassuring to see the government has seen really the opportunity that impact investment represents for Nigeria, and it's put the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission really on the lead of attracting this investment. So thank you very much. It's really stimulating. So now to Chichi, you and I are representing here the roles of the intermediaries, the roles that foundations, donors can do to support these investment opportunities pre or post-investment. What in particular is your organization, the Ford Foundation, doing to really stimulate the catalytic investment that is required to attract all these private investment?
Okay, thank you, Anna. I think, as I mentioned, the Ford Foundation has invested $1 billion in impact investing. And we have actually demonstrated that by doing it as an impact investment. So the Ford Foundation put the $1 billion in a social bond, and it is a profit from that social bond that is then going to be used to support impact investing around the world. And this is something that high net worth individuals, banks, sovereign wealth funds, all sorts of investment organizations can do, because ultimately people want their funding back. I remember in many years ago when I worked at Oxfam, we also had, it wasn't called impact investing then, but there were individuals who wanted to support social good. And what they did was to give Oxfam money over a period of time, but they get their money back, but without interest. So they'll give the Oxfam maybe $100,000 or $50,000 for 5 years. And then Oxfam could then use it over that period, invest in microfinance, invest in all sorts of things, and after 5 years, the people get back their capital. They've been able to do a social good, but they're able to get their money back. And so it is this type of things that we're trying to promote, doing it ourselves by supporting initiatives and investments like the IIF and others, but also stimulating companies and countries and individuals and communities to really start thinking about impact investment. The reality is that needs are increasing, and but funding is dwindling. And even for us, in trying to identify foreign investment, there is a lot of foreign capital available. But whether Nigeria is a destination is one thing. Whether it is even a good thing for us at this point in time to be borrowing in US dollars with the free fall of the Naira, because if you borrow today at 485 for the official interest rate, exchange rate, by the time you're ready to pay back, it might be 1,000, God forbid, but we may be going there. So we really need to have to start thinking about impact investment from a local perspective. We have to start catalyzing, our own funding locally. I remember I started my working career in a bank many, many, many years ago, what was called the New Generation Bank then. And I was a banking officer, and our role was to go and get deposits. And even though I was young and I didn't really know any of these terminologies or didn't exist, it didn't make any sense to me. And I'll go to my manager and say, but why are we going around looking for deposits when there's so many needs? We're here in Lagos at the time. There was no housing, no water, no nothing. I said, there's so much we can invest in. And they used to look at me like I was from the moon. And I knew that my days were numbered, because all they wanted was for us to walk around and ask people for money. And 30 odd years later, we're now back to what we should have done 30 years ago. We're a developing country. there is so much need, but that also means that there's so much opportunity. A lot of people who live in Lagos complain about the congestion. But if you tell the banks here or any of the investments to say, well, why don't you build houses in Abeokuta, or why don't you build houses elsewhere, invest in businesses elsewhere, they'll say, oh no, it has to be in Lagos, because that's where you make the money. But then you're complaining that there is congestion in Lagos, so it's a catch-22. So if we want to make development happen in a way that, catalyzes change, that gives us the type of lifestyle that we want, we have to be ready to measure profit, not just in terms of economic gain, but also in terms of social impact. And that's what, social investing is. We recognize that profit is important, but we also recognize that to be able to even sustain that profit, that you need to have a social good attached to it. And if we look at the trend in our country, if we look at the insecurity, if we look at, the downward spiral of everything, we recognize that it is because there is a lack of social investing. And the reality is that there is actually money at the bottom of the pyramid. Poor people pay more, unfortunately, for things. Poor people pay more for water, they pay more for electricity. It costs a lot more, to buy charcoal and to buy fire over a period of time if you calculate that based on other forms of energy. I mean, we've just heard from Toyin who joining online to say that they see that people are making savings. But the reality is that people don't want to, it takes time to do those kinds of investments. It takes a lot of engagement with communities and the rest of it. And so people shy away from it. And that's where the government comes in. That's where foundations like us come in, where we have to say, well, we will provide that support that is required to catalyze those kinds of investments so that people in rural communities, vulnerable people have a chance to have the kind of life, that is edifying, because we recognize, that they need to have income, and that the person who's providing it needs to have profit as well. And so it's a win-win at the end of the day for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chichi, for these interesting observations. Definitely, Ford Foundation has been really setting the basis, has created a lot of awareness, and has facilitated a lot of investment into Nigeria and Africa. I would just like to add, from the GIZ and the European Union part, we've definitely been really supporting the supply side, the investors, to identify a quality pipeline of investment opportunities according to their investment priorities. We have also been providing pre and post investment technical assistance. We've also been creating a lot of awareness around the possibilities of impact investment for the demand side, because in Nigeria we found many companies are very used to the debt finance, but they are not so used to equity finance, semi-equity or private investment or any other forms. So there is still a lot of work that needs to be done on this regard, and I think foundations like yours or donors like the European Union and the GIZ definitely have a very strong role to play there to really make all this matchmaking happening and creating all this awareness and empowering the investment opportunity side. So now moving over to the policy side, Tojin, can you tell us what kind of policies would you like to see coming from the government that will make your work easier to really facilitate this impact investment into Nigeria? What is your wish list? What would you like to see?
Thank you. Thank you. So first thing on my wish list are the tax holidays for, and I'm glad that has been mentioned already by Emeka. More of that, and probably an opportunity for investors to also work with NIBC to perhaps expand the list of what should be on that list of pioneer investments. And this is a list that has to continually be updated. because the world of investments, the world of ideas, things are growing at a very great pace. Secondly, is investments in or a framework that encourages investments in infrastructure. Infrastructure is critical to the delivery of the SDGs and the objectives. Thirdly, is also policies that will ensure that Nigeria can maximize the opportunities that are provided by AFTA. And these are policies that encourage free trade, that encourage harmonization of all our tax regimes and everything with what is happening across the region. I believe that hopefully that we're already signed up to AFTA. I believe implementation will be accelerated. I believe also that financial literacy is critical, and we still have a huge level, and by the way, not just financial literacy, but actually education. And so we need to see a greater commitment of greater budgetary commitment to social area like education and healthcare. And I think the pandemic has brought to the fore the critical importance of the health and well-being of the people at the end of the day. I would also love to see policies that protect investment and protect land assets, essentially. So we do need reviews to the current legal and regulatory framework for not just protection of the rights in assets, including land assets, but also that provides an easy framework for charging those assets for the purpose of raising capital becomes very important. I cannot overemphasize the importance of consistency in the regulatory framework. So the policy environment has to be underpinned by consistency and clarity of communication, and this communication should not change arbitrarily. Those are some of the things that would encourage investors to come to this market. And I can't finish without mentioning also security. So we do need reforms that can impact the security environment in Nigeria, because unfortunately we're losing a lot of, if you look at it in the last couple of years, we have lost a huge amount of what would have been foreign direct investments into our markets to some of the neighboring economies like Ghana, and high on the list of investors is the perception of insecurity. So we do need to address the security situation.
Thank you, Tojin. I've seen Emeka taking a lot of notes, so I'm sure this is going to go really high up to where it needs to go, and I believe there is somebody from the VP's office also taking notes to all these comments that I can only corroborate and emphasize that you've made. So Emeka, over to you. There is a lot of foreign impact investors that are following this session from all over the world, from Europe, the US, and traditionally these foreign impact investors, they were going to places that they consider safer, South America, Southeast Asia, etc. What can you tell them so that they can feel comfortable in bringing their investment to Africa and in Nigeria in particular? Because I can testify that we've had in NICOP, in GIZ NICOP, some investors that were really interested in investing in Nigeria, and when they were about to invest, they decided to take this investment into Ghana because they felt the business enabling environment there is nicer. So after 2 years of making a lot of work to get them to come to Nigeria, they finally see the opportunity of Africa, but they go to Ghana. What can you tell them so that they will come to Nigeria and they will feel their investment is safe and there is not going to be any change in regulation or any change in whatsoever that is going to make their investment put into danger, their investment? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The first thing I will tell them is that when they want to invest and when they decide to invest in Nigeria, they should talk to NIPC first. Because within NIPC, especially within the NIPC Act, they have guarantees and protections embedded in the act that will protect them. So when they talk to NIPC first, we put them through to the protections that they are likely to get within the NIPC Act. And we will also handhold them as they go through their journey to realize their investment aspirations. His Excellency the Vice President mentioned in his keynote address some of the interventions that governments have put in place. And those are implementations of policies that have been enacted by government. I would like to say that the federal government of Nigeria has shown a very high-level commitment to improving the business environment. But that is still work in progress. We will continue to improve the business environment. Having said that also, I would like to mention that the competition for capital is global. So different countries try to do different things to lure investors, forgive me for using that word, to their own country. And as we try to improve the business environment, it makes it easier for investors to come to our own country. The high-level commitment by federal government has been seen in the reforms introduced by PEBEC, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, through the EB Secretariat. The idea behind that, headed by the Mr. Vice President himself, is to remove those bottlenecks that investors will have. And they have introduced a lot of reforms along that process. So the next thing now will be for them, for us all, to continue to implement more reforms, especially on the hard infrastructure areas. The next thing I want to say is that there are several legislations and policies in place already that work to encourage investors and provide some guarantees for them. I already mentioned the NIPC Act, there are the CAC Act, the Corporate Affairs Commission Act, with the amendments, the Investment and Securities Act, the Foreign Exchange Monitoring and Miscellaneous Act. Recently, the Finance Act of 2019 and 2020 have tried to improve the business environment for impact investors as well as SMEs. So with all those, you see that the government is committed to making sure that impact investors, and indeed all investors in Nigeria, that their lives are made easier for them to do business. I am not saying that we don't have challenges, but I think it was Chichi that mentioned that those challenges should be seen as opportunities. So we advocate that investors should also look at the challenges and see how we can convert them to opportunities working with NIPC. I would like to see improvements, policy improvements in the area of the tech-enabled ecosystem. With technology, leveraging technology, it's easier to navigate through these challenges. So supporting the tech-enabled ecosystem with policies and instruments that will help them to become strengthened in their desire to do business in Nigeria. So you see a lot in the agri-tech space, a lot in the fintech space. You know, they are leveraging technology to create opportunities for Nigerians and then move beyond the challenges posed by infrastructure. So a proper regulation will be ideal for the tech-enabled ecosystem to support them so that they don't fall prey to the competition that may come from outside Nigeria. Then the need to enlighten the general public to create business out of philanthropy is also important. I would like to see that happen because we can create a lot of impact by converting them to real business. Government needs to continue to improve the business environment. And within NIPC, we would also like to see the continual implementation of the One-Stop Investment Center. The One-Stop Investment Center helps investors go through, is an entry mechanism, pre-entry mechanism that helps investors to go through some of the challenges and the registration and navigate through the process. So we would like to see that OSIC is strengthened. One of the things we did in NIPC also was to automate the process. So as part of the single window investors portal, OSIC has now been automated, and you can access all the services from all the services that you expect from NIPC through this single window investors portal. Thank you.
Thank you, Emeka. And just for all these international impact investors that are following us online or on the audience here physically, I would like to add that Nigeria has a very thriving donor community and foundations community that are here to support the pre and post investment technical assistance that is required. We can also support on the quality pipeline identification. We can support on the matchmaking and networking. And there is a lot of local private equity firms, local fund managers that are really professional and can really provide you all the local context that is required to understand what is happening in Nigeria. And to speak of the Nigerian opportunities, there is a lot of competitive and comparative advantages of Nigeria. It's a huge market. If you want to be somewhere, Nigeria is a place to be. And there is a lot of people that are going to facilitate this. So please don't go to Ghana. Stay in Nigeria because it's a place to be. There is a lot of possibilities here. And just to round up, the last question around after COVID, you know, we are in a situation that the companies that were weak, they are even weaker. There is a lot of more marginalization because the people that were already in the bottom of the pyramid, they are really worse. So my question to Habiba, to just close, is what are some of the challenges that the investment opportunities are additionally facing after COVID? How can this be addressed in the current context? What would you have to say?
Okay, so there's a lot of companies, and I will speak for my sector mostly because that's the one that I really play in and understand. But I think a lot that happened was, and you know, maybe a bit of the agricultural sector where we're actually doing some sort of synergical work in. The thing that happened was when the shutdown happened, of course, everyone stopped work, basically. I remember when everyone stopped work, I was like, oh God, this is going to be so bad, because just one day out of an economy is, I mean, we can see, you can tell from, if you listen to the numbers, how every public holiday affects, you know, the economy somehow. And all of a sudden, nobody was going to work. I remember when it first happened, there was a surge, because we do pay-as-you-go solutions and we have mini-grids. There was a surge of people buying power because nobody knew how long they were going to be at home. The fact that people really couldn't tell. Nobody could place their fingers on how long they were going to be at home. Most companies paid salaries ahead just so people are comfortable and all of that. So it seemed good in the beginning. But with time, as it dragged on, the reality hit home and money wasn't coming in because, for example, I know that in Lagos, and that was one thing I really appreciated about the Lagos state government, the energy, the department, the Ministry of Energy, the commissioner was able to find a way to allow companies in my space do their work, because it was believed that that was an essential service, and so they could go out and sell solutions, and you know, with the appropriate protection at that time. And so, but we in the north, for example, in Kaduna, there was nothing like that. I couldn't go out to work, I couldn't go to communities, and working in a sector where most of my customers were rural-based, before COVID, it was a problem getting paid, and with COVID, getting paid became doubly a problem. And so it meant that funds didn't come as much as we wanted. The POS places where they could pay money, travel communities and pay money were not working, and so all of that shut down a lot of things. And of course, that set us back like almost a year. And some of the projects that we're starting, especially, like I said earlier, also got delayed, but the good thing is they caught on. In the perishable sector of the agricultural part, most of the produce that were farmed got bad because transportation was not easy. And that was when we thought about the solar drying hubs that we're currently working on. And we got support from the PropCom Make a Fee project then, and we were able to do 7 drying hubs. And the hubs have solar dryers about 3 to 4, depending on the size that we think, where people could bring tomatoes, peppers, ginger, whatever you wanted to dry, and dry at the hubs and pay for the service to the women. We had women in the communities where we trained and they did that. And the women also outside of the season dried fruits, vegetables, and we're able to package, we're able to train them to package them nicely and sell. We're trying to go further now with this recent support from USAID to see how they can expand on that end of the project. So, of course, getting activity to continue was a big trouble. And by now, I was hoping that especially, I'll continue with the solar drying hub business. I was hoping that by now we should have a market. You know, it should be regular. Like, you know, there's always, we're selling. People are looking for produce. We're constantly, you know, all of that didn't happen the way we planned for it to happen. And you can imagine. I keep thinking if it was serious investment that was put in that, and it wasn't like half of it was grant. And that was what supported us. Half of it was grant from PropCom, and we had to put money, our own counterpart funding. I just imagine that if all of it was, even if it is impact investing, who are not just giving you money for free, they are giving you money to pay it back because someone else could benefit. I mean, we've had support from organizations like Kiva, Bettervest, crowdfunding platforms that do not really look for profit, but they expect you to pay back because someone else can benefit from that funding. So imagine that if we had all of that money tied down. I'm talking about getting loans in foreign currency we got the Bettervest loan, say, at 420 naira to the euros, and now we're paying back at whatever the rate of the euro is now, so you can imagine. And all of that really, really crunched us down, and this just happened because there was COVID problems. Well, we're trying to cough out of that situation, bringing ourselves back up, but what it has set us back in is that we're now trying to look for more comfortable capital, patient capital. And that's what the impact investing part will come in and support us so that we can actually have some sort of balance, and then hopefully nothing else happens, and then the security situation cools down and we can actually grow our business better.
Thank you, Habiba. So all local and international investors, Nigeria is very much open for business. COVID has not meant a halt on everything. In fact, the disruption of COVID in the day-to-day life has been minimal if you compare it to other countries, and there is a very thriving impact investment ecosystem that is ready to support you all. So now we are going to open the floor for questions from the audience, and I also invite all the people participating online to submit their questions, and they will be selected for the panel to be answered. So maybe we can start with 2 questions from the audience here physical while we wait for the online.
Yes, absolutely. We have a question from our online audience already. Anna?
Okay. So let me read it. Attracting impact investment is a great investment opportunity. How can one get the contacts with impact investors to come and partner with a number state investment promotion and protection agency? So let me just answer, and then I will invite also my panelists to add anything that they want. But basically, this is one of the challenges that we were mentioning, that it is difficult as an investment opportunity to showcase what are your advantages. So there are different platforms that are doing good job to showcase this. One of them is the Impact Investor Foundation, that they are having several events running to identify these impact investment opportunities. They've done several roadshows in Nigeria to identify these companies that have good investment, and they are providing them some impact investment readiness support. But apart from that, there are different donor agencies like GIZ, like FCDO, like Canada Global Affairs and other donors that will be willing to support these impact investment opportunities and provide all these networking, matchmakings and linkages for this to be materialized. I don't know who will want to add. Habiba?
I am a member of the National Advisory Board for Impact Investing, and just like you said, IIF is doing a lot of work. I know that one of the things we want to do at the NAB is to also set up like a platform where companies can come, we can vet companies, make them help, not just vet them, but prepare them to investment readiness, and such that we have 4 different platforms that we are working with. There's a supply of impact capital, the demand for impact capital, the intermediation, 5, and market builders and professionals and government. And we prepare the people on the demand end, and then the supply people will actually bring the impact capital. So I will recommend that maybe the people just pay close attention to what IIF is doing and the National Advisory Board for Impact Investing, because there's a lot that's going to come in play within the next few months. Yeah.
Thank you, Tojin. You mentioned before that there was some technical assistance being provided by your organization. Would you like to add something else to the question from the audience?
Thank you. So what I'll just add is that at Emerging Africa, we provide advisory services. And the advisory services includes having an understanding of your business and then being able to engage various potential partners on your behalf and together identifying who will be best. We also have a capacity building arm that essentially coaches, mentors, and provides programs to help entrepreneurs to know how best to grow and to fund their businesses, and you can participate in those activities. I personally put my contact details on the chat box already, which is my email address and my LinkedIn address. But to say that I'm totally aligned with Abiba, I'm also a member of the National Advisory Board. And I think just following the activities of the IIF will enable you to also broaden your knowledge and understanding of the various types of partners that the IIF is affiliated with and who will support you.
Thank you, Tojin. Any other questions from the audience?
All right, so fastest hands first. There's a gentleman here and another on that side. Unfortunately, we have time for just 2 questions, so please bear with us.
Good morning, I'm Oluogun Fora. I'm part of the, shall I say, the ecosystem for impact investing in Nigeria. Chichi, you made a very important point, because one of the things I've been asking people really is that you've got this foreign impact capital coming in, and they're asking in terms of where is the domestic component in Naira? Because at the end of the day, like Abiba mentioned, you borrow at whether it's low interest rate, but because of the exchange rate variation, and if you have to pay back, it's expensive. So the question that Emeka, being representative of the government here, really is that how do we mobilize domestic impact capital? And in addition, how do we promote export-oriented economy while also diversifying from oil? Because if you bring in foreign capital, the assumption really is that you're going to export the goods and services so that you can earn forex to pay back. But if you are promoting investment that is not export oriented and people are bringing in forex, when they want to take the forex out, it will be a strain on the Naira. So what's your viewpoint, and how can we now mobilize that domestic impact capital to promote made in Nigeria goods and services, and even in line with AFTA?
Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to take this question from the panelists? Emeka?
It looks like all hands were pointing at me. So I don't have a choice but to begin to answer the question. I think the question you asked is at the core of why we exist, why we are here, why we need to attract and retain investment in Nigeria. The foreign exchange challenge is a huge one for the country, also for the investors investing in Nigeria, especially when under the Act, we also supposed to allow them to repatriate 100%. So they need to generate sufficient quantum of foreign exchange, enhance our foreign reserve to be able to take in or accommodate to whatever foreign exchange needs that the country will have or projects to have is crucial to the work we do. So in trying to promote investments and attract sufficient investment, especially those that will have import substitution and export substitution element to it is very important to us. I forgot to mention that I have with me here our Director of Investment Promotion, Mr. Adeshino Emmanuel. So it's part of the job he does. Emmanuel, please can you wave your hand? It's part of the job he does. But in NIPC, in trying to locate or identify the type of investments that we attract in Nigeria is very important. We don't want every investment. I need to be upfront on that. We want investments that are aligned with the aspirations of government, and that includes the points you have very well raised. Investment, and even when you look at the pioneer status incentives that we grant to qualifying investors, a core component of the things that will make you to qualify for that tax holiday is your ability, the ability of your activity to generate foreign exchange for the country. So it's something we need to beef up our efforts at to ensure that that is done. The next thing is the need for us to improve the business environment. It is very, very crucial. Once we can generate, promote and support investments that will help us to garner foreign exchange, it will help us a lot. The Nigerian Export Promotion Council is also, was also set up by the government to push for exports of Nigerian goods so that we can earn foreign exchange. The next thing I would like to say, you mentioned the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. What that does for Nigeria and indeed the rest of Africa is to expand the frontiers. If Africa can trade within Africa with themselves, we will be able to attract sufficient foreign exchange. I would also like to mention that one of the things we do is to try to showcase opportunities and push for reforms within government. Like I mentioned at the onset, when we attend events like this or convenings like this, we take notes and then we pass them on to government to ensure that they use them to drive some new reforms. So I agree with you 800% that we need to focus on diversifying the economy away from oil, and that is also reflected in the type of investment that we push to attract into Nigeria. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Mika. I would just like to add that from the European Union, there are several financial instruments that are being considered to hedge this foreign exchange risk, and also DFIs like AFW are also looking into this issue because we understand it's one of the major barriers that needs to be addressed to really facilitate all this investment in Nigeria. But I will also try to encourage everybody to create a lot of awareness to the local investors in Nigeria with Nigerian money to invest in impact investment, because there is a lot of opportunities and a lot of return on investment. So this is a task that we all need to do to be advocating for impact investment, and also a call to the DFIs that are already working in Nigeria to consider the special peculiarities of the Nigerian companies and the Nigerian context, and maybe if their minimum ticket is about $3 to $5 million, just consider something more specific to the local context. So I don't know if we have time for one more question.
Yeah, we're already running out of time, but if you can make it really brief, we would appreciate it.
Thank you.
My name is Kelvin,
of the Ogba Educational Clinic. Quickly, I want to say that there is a great reset as a result of COVID-19. And as we enter into the fourth industrial revolution that is powered by artificial intelligence, there is a need for us to reskill. And industries like the OEC that is supporting young people to get tech skills so that they can become great revenue earners, like the Indian economy today that's earning a lot of dollars from Europe, from America and other big nations to their country. What is organizations like Ford doing to support skills acquisitions that are relevant to the fourth industrial revolution? Because we know that the robots are not just coming to take over jobs, they are also coming to be our bosses. What's the place in Africa? How are we preparing for them? Then two, we have to look at our women.
Okay.
I try to do something in Warri, where I come from, about women embracing tech skills in doing business. How do we prepare these women, these local women, so that they can become active participants in the economy by leveraging on technology in doing their business? We want to see support for them too. Thank you.
All right, that was more like a keynote address than a question, but and a little off the point because we didn't really touch on AI, but if you can make it really brief in the response, and then maybe afterwards you can meet Dr. Chichi one-on-one. Yeah.
Okay, so the Ford Foundation recognizes the importance of young people being supported economically. So we actually have a fund that is has been seeded to Leap Africa. It's called the Nigerian Youth Futures Fund, and it's $5 million, and it's been given, and it's in partnership with the MacArthur Foundation. And so through Leap Africa, this funding will be made available to young people who have innovative ideas, including in technology. We have also supported in the past the Made in Aba campaign. We provided funding to try and get Made in Aba products to be of better quality and also to be accepted in the economy. So there's a lot that we do. I mean, we support people who then do these things directly. We don't do them directly. But I really just want 1 minute to respond to the question, the Anambra person who was asked, who called on the line. First of all, I have to commend Anambra State that even in the middle of election, somebody from the Investment Forum is participating in a workshop like this. That shows some level of seriousness. But I think it's important to say that in addition to all Anna has said, international organizations, people who are available to support, it's important to say that a place like Anambra State really should be looking inwards. There are a lot of millionaires from Anambra State. And Anambra traditionally also has the trade union. So it's not the trade, the town unions. You have the town unions, which is a southeast thing, where people have traditionally, invested in their communities in building hospitals or roads or whatever. And this is actually impact investment, even if it wasn't given that name. So I think that what the government can do is to look at the town unions and begin to say, how can we partner with them? So if we want to build something in the community and the town union can invest 5 million, then the government can match it with 5 million to be able to then make that happen. And that can become a model for going forward. And I think that Anambra can actually set the pace for that, simply because, the culture is there and the funding is there. It's just that people are not thinking in that direction. And that's the importance of workshops like this, to begin to open up minds and to start thinking about different ways of catalyzing development in our different regions.
Fantastic.
So thank you very much to all my panelists. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be moderating this session. Thank you very much for all your insights. And I would just like to close that we didn't touch specifically gender because we believe anything we say about impact investment is fully inclusive, and therefore all the gender considerations are fully embedded in anything we do, and everything about impact investment is collaboration, as you can see from the panelists that we have here. So thank you very much, and thank you all for your attention.
I think NIPC needs to think about hiring Anna.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that.
As their spokesperson. She's done a fantastic job at promoting Nigeria.
Dr. Chichi, you took that right out of my mouth. I was going to say that Anna has done a fantastic job of being a Nigeria ambassador. I think we need to give her a Nigerian name in honor of her effort.
I may not look Nigerian, but I'm fully Nigerian.
Mr. Nika, for Chidinma would be a good name. So Anna Chidinma Vinambres, thank you so much for that wonderful one. Dr. Chichi Anyogolo Okoye of Ford Foundation, thank you as well. To Tony Sani, who joined us virtually, we appreciate you and thank you so much for your contributions. Keep the round of applause coming. Habiba Ali, thank you as well, and the maker of NIPC. Tony, we're taking a group photograph. We're going to try and capture you from there, so just smile, just give us that $1 million smile, fantastic. Yeah, so make sure you capture Tony as you take that photograph.